All right, joining me is Dr. Charles Ledoux, the current coroner of Terrebonne Parish. And Doc, it's good to have you on board. How are you, sir?
Fine, Martin. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Well, there's an election and coroner's up for election. But, you know, I say this almost with trepidation, but not a lot of people know what the coroner does.
No.
So here's your chance to explain a little bit. What do you do on a daily basis?
Well,
as coroner?
most people think that coroners are involved with death, and we are. We have to investigate any death that has any suspicious surroundings, homicide, murder, suicide, and any unusual circumstances. But as time has passed on, we are also extremely heavily involved in the two great medical issues that face our society: mental health and drugs. Last year, we did 1,100 mental exams with the coroner's office. We also take care of OPCs, or orders of protective custody. If a family member or a friend or anybody you think is having a mental health crisis, either could harm themselves or harm somebody else, if you come in, see us, we'll take the information. If it seems valid, we could get either the police department or the sheriff's office to go pick that individual up, bring them someplace to get evaluated. If they find that their problem is real, then we get them hospitalized. After they're hospitalized, the coroner has to see them within 3 days in order to certify it.
Let me ask you this, because your predecessor, of course, Dr. Vic Tedesco,
Right.
appeared many times on our program, and the heroin problem was really on the mind. It's still on the mind.
Heroin, then fentanyl now.
Yeah.
Different drugs, but the same action. Last year we had 67 drug overdoses. Now those are just ones that we see. Mm-hmm. They find the patient dead. They find that there's expired. This doesn't count the people that get in the hospital, die in the hospital, or recover. We had 67, 56 had fentanyl involved to some degree or another.
Yeah.
What we're seeing more and more is a mixture of drugs. People cut one drug with another.
But there's a lot of investigatory work that goes along with being coroner also, isn't there?
Exactly. We have three investigators full-time, one part-time, a chief investigator, and they keep pretty busy.
So did you ever think, as you spent many years as a general surgeon in Houma, before you became coroner, did you ever think that one day this would be something that you'd be doing?
No.
Yeah.
For 45 years I practiced as a general surgeon. I earned my living with my hands and my brain. Right. But I appreciated that part of it was dealing with people in a crisis. The family was in a crisis. A family member was sick, was dying, was in an accident. And when you think about it, being coroner is kind of an extension of that. Everybody we deal with, it's an upheaval in the family, an upheaval in their relatives, and we have to kind of explain things to them and try to calm them down as much as we can. It's not a happy time for them, and you're not going to make them happy, but you can explain it to them. So in a way, it's an extension.
Let's take a little time in the 7 minutes that flies by, but talk a little bit about your personal life. I know a lot of coroners don't want to get in their personal life, but your lovely wife is here. Just tell us a little bit about some of your personal life.
I went to LSU Medical School, trained in the LSU surgery program, came to Houma in 1978. Have 2 children and 4 3/4 grandchildren. We have a boy coming sometime around Thanksgiving.
So, Doc, let me ask you. I know you've been coroner for a few years, but how long have you been associated with the coroner's office?
For 40 years, for deputy, chief deputy, and for the past 3 years as a coroner, as I took over Vic Tedesco's unexpired term and stood for election unopposed.
Now that you are the current coroner, is this something that I know it's not just about putting a check mark on your resume. You got a pretty doggone good resume, but you got to have a passion to want to be a coroner.
Yeah, you have to want to do it. I mean, you have to enjoy doing it. Enjoy may not be a good word to use because it is taking care of disasters. But I was a general surgeon, so I was used to taking care of disasters.
Right, you've probably seen quite a bit. But once again, does it baffle you that most people, you hear a little bit of parish president talk right now. You hear a lot of legislative talk. But when you talk about the coroner, it remains a quiet position. Does that shock you?
No, because I make an effort to keep it a quiet position. I mean, I think we keep a low profile, get our job done, mind the business, and don't look for a lot of publicity. I mean, we just do the job and get it done. And that's kind of the way I practice general surgery. I mean, took care of the problem, but I wasn't show off or anything like that. And I make a concentrated effort for it not to be a controversial.
But you've been a low profile guy most of your life. It's only when guys like me pull you up on the news desk and ask you to do an interview just so the people will know.
Well, I've always felt, if you do the best you can at your job, then that's the best you can do. I mean, and that's how you define success.
And just real quick, we have about a minute left. How do you keep your energy up for people watching? You've been practicing for so long, but you still seem to have a lot of energy to do this type of job.
Because it's interesting, and no case is different. My wife asked me, well, what are you going to do today? And since I've known her since 1972, that I've never known what I was going to be doing 10 minutes in the future.
Right.
And it was
so
like that.
So you don't get bored.
It was like that practicing medicine. It was like that being the coroner. I mean, you never know when the phone's going to ring, and when it rings, what it's going to mean.
Well, Doc, I appreciate you coming on just to share with the people a little bit about yourself. And unfortunately, we're out of time, but thank you so much for coming on. And once again, our current coroner, Dr. Charles Ledoux, right here on Bayou Time. Be watching for other segments. We'll have all the candidates on. We'll be back right after a short break. Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health Systems, modern technology, and timeless caring. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bourke, know your rights. South Louisiana Bank, it's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. Alford and Associates, for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.
After the next storm, can we count on the insurance companies to stick around? That's why Michael Paul LaRussa will lead the fight to lower our insurance rates from day one. He'll work with leaders in Baton Rouge to solve this crisis, show the feds updated flood models, and complete funding for hurricane protection and drainage. Fighting big insurance to save Terrebonne. Michael Paul LaRussa for Parish President.
This is Senator John Kennedy. I can't tell you how proud I am to support Mike Folse for the Louisiana State Senate. Mike Folse knows what it takes to grow Louisiana's economy. He does. Big Mike has worked hard for the Bayou. He's worked hard for the Bayou to create jobs, to lower your taxes, to protect and restore Louisiana's coast. When Hurricane Ida hammered the Bayou, Mike was one of the first people I saw on the ground, working hard for recovery, answering questions, offering encouragement, directing our first responder. So I want you to go out and vote. And when you do, I hope you'll join me in supporting Big Mike Folse for the Louisiana State Senate. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless Louisiana.
And welcome back as we continue to meet the candidates here in Terrebonne Parish and the surrounding areas. And we talked about the office, or the position really, of coroner. And we have three candidates. And joining us now is one of those candidates, Dr. Donald Paul Schwab. Doc, good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you, Martin. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And,
Appreciate
we talk, and I guess like I've talked with everyone, the coroner doesn't get a lot of attention. really not supposed to. It's more of an ethical position when doctors assume positions of that magnitude. They don't always go out and proclaim what they're seeing. There's a lot of privacy involved. But just the circumstances of coroner. Let me ask you, first of all, why'd you decide to run?
Well, Martin, we had a coroner for 30 plus years. Dr. Vic Tedesco was a great friend of mine, and always had the utmost respect for Dr. Vic, and we always would talk, and I always would tell him whenever he was going to retire that I wanted to run for coroner and I wanted to succeed him, and I always told him I'd never run against him, and so in talking with Dr. Tedesco over the years, it kind of got my interest in the office, and waiting for the opportunity, and unfortunately, untimely passing away of Dr. Vic, and so here we are today with an open coroner's race.
Let me ask you, because there's a lot of investigatory things that go on in the coroner's office, and really there's a lot of things that happen that we don't know about, that the coroner really has to go in there and sort of tell the story of what took place. And we've had a lot of, when you mentioned Dr. Vic, he was on our desk a few times talking about heroin and fentanyl. Those are two areas of concern, and I'm sure there would be an area of concern if you were elected coroner.
Yeah, Martin, I think that's an important point with regards to the coroner's office. Obviously, it's an investigative arm to look at deaths in the community, but I also feel like going forward, trying to make it more of an educational, preventative type thing. Let's prevent you from seeing the coroner on different diseases, and again, certainly for the fentanyl and the heroin crisis is just out of control. So hopefully the coroner's office can continue to take a role in the community to educate the public about different things, and I envision, going forward, if taking on these sort of things and on a monthly basis. For instance, this month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Go pink, and so I think as the coroner, we need to educate our patients and our community about the value of breast cancer awareness and preventing those breast cancer deaths. So I think that's an important part of the coroner, the role of the coroner. I do know, and again, talking with Dr. Vic for many years, he had and has a great team there running that office, and I think the team itself is really the key to the success of the coroner's office is the investigative team and the employees that work there, which I've been told on many occasions that it's a very solid foundation for that office.
How has you passed, and you have a very good practice? How has that sort of got you ready? I mean, any physician can run for coroner, but there's different fields. But how do you feel like your practice has got you ready for coroner?
Yeah, certainly being a general surgeon obviously puts the knife in our hands and makes us comfortable with the dissection of the human body, so to speak. So I think that is, but I think you're correct. I think any physician is eligible to run for coroner, and I think it's more about what you can bring to the table as the coroner rather than what you are as a in a profession as far as your chosen field that you work in. So I think certainly being a surgeon helps that from that standpoint.
Come to think of it, I'm trying to think back as many as I can remember. You're right, probably all had a general surgeon background, come to think of it,
yeah,
so to speak. But, you practice now. I'm sure it's good. A lot of doctors stay busy in this town, and this will add a few hours to the plate, but obviously you gave it a lot of thought, talk with your wife and kids about running it. What made the final decision?
Again, Martin, I think the discussions I've had in the past with Dr. Tedesco and now currently with the race kind of being open, wanting to just get involved in the community. Obviously, there is some political background in my family with my father having been the parish president before. I don't have any aspirations of doing any other kind of politics, but to be able to give back to this community and participate in something I think is very important is definitely a driving influence for me to decide to do it.
And of course, your mom was in the medical field and still in the medical field all these years. So,
yeah.
Any advice from mom?
Yeah, just be nice. That's mom's advice always.
No doubt about it. But going back to the hard issue of heroin and fentanyl. I mean, in my era, and I'm a little older than you by about 10 years. When we grew up, crack cocaine was the big thing, and marijuana was such a bad drug. back then. That sort of changed now. Marijuana doesn't take the full picture today. Crack cocaine is still around, but doesn't share the limelight as much as heroin and fentanyl. Any specific idea what you would do to try to combat those two?
Martin, the fentanyl crisis is really it's mind blowing. The effect that it's had on this country as a whole, and it's imperative that we continue to educate our younger class, our younger generation, that they have to understand that, when somebody says, "Hey, try this. This will be good. This will be fun. This will be," if you get a hold of the wrong stuff, that even the first time you try it could be the end of you, and the next person you go to is the coroner, and they have to understand that. We've got to make them understand that they're all dangerous drugs, but the fentanyl and the heroin is really something that we've got to get the public out to know.
All right, appreciate you coming on, Dr. D.P. Schwab. Once again, he is a candidate for coroner here in Terrebonne Parish. We'll have a lot more right here on Bayou Time. Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health Systems, modern technology, and timeless caring. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bourke, know your rights. South Louisiana Bank, it's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. Alford and Associates, for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.
You gotta try this. And some of those. Ooh, and definitely that. You won't be disappointed, but just know you can only get it here. Up and down Louisiana's Cajun Bayou in Lafourche Parish. Y'all come visit. We're just 35 miles south of New Orleans. Hungry? Let's eat!
I'm Darren Guidry. I'm a conservative, a lifelong Republican, and a candidate for parish president. 8 years on the Terrebonne Parish Council, 8 years on the Terrebonne Levy and Conservation District, and 6 years on the Terrebonne Economic Development Authority. This is the proven experience I bring as your parish president to start working for you on day one. Please vote Darren Guidry, parish president in October, so I can go to work for you.
And welcome back to Bayou Time as we meet the candidates once again. Joining us now is Dr. Patrick Walker, and he has been a physician here in the area for many years, and he is running for the position of coroner. And Dr. Walker, good to see you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Folse. It's a pleasure to meet you.
All right. Let's talk about, as I told Dr. Ledoux, and I'll tell Dr. Schwab, not a lot of people know about the coroner's office. It's never really on the radar. Everybody's a little scared of the coroner because normally they think he'll pronounce you dead. But
that's correct.
What exactly does the coroner's office do, and why did you want to run for coroner?
So basically, yeah, you're absolutely correct. The coroner's office is one of those little secrets that a lot of people don't know about. And so basically, the coroner's office is established to, number one, find out the cause of death of anyone whose death may seem illusionary, or we may not know the exact cause of the death. For example, they might not have a history of heart disease, might not have a history of high blood pressure. They might not have been hospitalized, where we can actually pronounce them in the hospital and know the exact cause of the death. So, for example, if you have someone that's at home, they were seen by the family members a couple hours ago, And then the family member went into the room, and the patient is lying unconscious. The patient is dead, haven't had any complaints before. So we want to ascertain if there's been any foul play. That, for example, if this patient was poisoned, murdered by someone else, or if the patient just died, we call it of natural causes. Actually, there has to be a reason for the death. So if we are uncertain as to the cause of death, then we will bring that body to the morgue, and we would have a conversation. We have our assistants, our investigators that go on the scene, and they would gather all the information that they need from friends and family members as to what might have contributed to the cause of the death. And if we are not 100% sure, then that patient would have an autopsy.
Let me ask you this, because when I had Dr. Tedesco on previous to his passing away, we had many conversations about heroin and fentanyl and that type of thing. That has really taken the town, it's really held us hostage, hasn't it?
You're absolutely correct, Mr. Folse. Actually, that's one of my main agendas if I become coroner. I would like to partner with the local law officials, enforcement agencies, so that we can positively impact the mental health and addictive issues that we have in our parish. Actually, Louisiana has the 11th highest cause of death from addiction, drug overdose. And that's an issue that we have to address. 11 out of 1,000 people here in Louisiana, excuse me, pass away from accidental drug overdose. And I think recently we've had some issues with fake pills that's been circulating. It's a complex issue. Let me give a simple example. You go on the street, you buy some weed, simple weed, and it's laced with fentanyl. You don't know. And so you think that, this is simple marijuana. It's simple marijuana with fentanyl. You smoke it, and a couple of minutes later, you're dead. It's a big issue that needs to be addressed.
We get back to the point where physicians run for coroner, and it's not a highly publicized position because physicians, there's a code of ethics when you're coroner. You can't just go out and give out information.
That's correct.
It's pretty private. Yeah. But just on the underlay of being a coroner, what are some other things that the office does?
So, and that's a very salient point, because my goal as coroner is to educate the public as to the exact role of the coroner's office and how they can get more involved. For example, we have a lot of mental health issues in the world, and Houma is no exception. So basically, if you have a patient, for example, who has a severe case of schizophrenia, and this patient is difficult to manage, this patient is in and out of psych institutions, it's like a revolving door situation. There is an occasional time when the family may not be able to manage this patient, and we have to commit this patient. So we call it an OPC, which is an order of protective custody. And so I'd like to educate the public as to how that works. I mean, it's a pretty smooth process. The family member or the next of kin just comes to the office and tell us all about that patient. And if we think that this patient is a danger to themselves or a danger to society, homicidal or suicidal, then we could actually commit that patient. And, we get the law enforcement agencies go and protect the family members from any criminal or any, dangerous situation. And we can actually escort that patient to the emergency room.
Just real quick, we have about a minute left, and
Sure.
I appreciate you coming. Just a little bit about yourself for the audience, if you don't mind. Married, children, how many?
So I'm a native of Barbados, and I moved to New York in 1987, and went to college there in New Jersey. And so I moved to Houma in just a little before 9/11. I remember I was standing in a patient's room, and I saw the plane crashing into the building. So I've been here for about 23 years now. I have a practice here. I have 2 kids, a wife, and a dog.
All right. Well, Doc, unfortunately, we're out of time. I told you the 7 minutes flies by.
Exactly,
and I appreciate you coming. And thank you so much for joining us.
Good. It's a pleasure being here.
All right. Once
Appreciate
again, Dr. Patrick Walker, candidate for coroner right here in Terrebonne Parish. Once again, there's 3 in that race. We'll feature all of them. We'll take a short break. We'll be back.